Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself doing that? Believing something even when there's like a tiny voice telling you it might not be true.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or maybe that time you swore something was fact just because you really wanted it to be.
Exactly. We've all been there. Today, we're diving into something fascinating, something that touches every single one of us. The human mind's incredible capacity for, well, self-deception and cognitive biases.
Yeah, and these aren't just little quirks, are they? They really shape our reality, how we make decisions, even our societies.
They really do. And here's where it gets really interesting. We're exploring all of this through the cutting-edge lens of AI.
Yeah, and what's really wild is just, how much this stuff is everywhere, from our personal relationships right up to global finance. These systematic ways we sort of deviate from pure rationality, they're always at play.
Always.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the key insights from a huge AI-driven scientific study looking right at this.
Yeah.
We'll get into why our brains are wired this way, how AI is kind of like a mirror for this stuff, but maybe also a solution.
A mirror and a solution. I like that. And what this all means for you listening right now, for your decisions, and, well, maybe our future, too.
Exactly.
And the sources we're drawing on, they're really broad, aren't they? Covering psychology, neuroscience, evolution, philosophy, and then looking at the big societal impacts.
Right. It's a full picture, really gets into the why behind these internal quirks we all have.
Okay, so let's start with us, humans. We keep hearing cognitive biases, self-deception. What exactly are we talking about here? Lay it out for us.
Okay, so a cognitive bias, fundamentally, it's just a systematic pattern in how we think that makes us, stray from perfectly rational judgment.
Like mental shortcuts.
Exactly like shortcuts.
Yeah.
Our brains don't process every single bit of info perfectly. Instead, they build this kind of subjective reality from what we perceive.
And that subjective reality is what drives our actions.
Right. And sometimes that leads to, well, distorted perceptions, maybe inaccurate judgments, or even interpretations that just don't logically follow.
So clever shortcuts that sometimes. Miss the mark.
Got it. What about self-deception, then? That sounds trickier.
It is a bit trickier. Self-deception is more like a biased cognitive process. It's about seeking out, or maybe just holding on to, a false belief.
But how does that work? The paradox, right?
Yeah.
Believing something false, but somehow knowing it's false.
That's the million-dollar question. The studies suggest it works through things like biased information seeking. So you only look for stuff that confirms what you want to believe.
Right. Ignoring the inconvenient facts.
Or just actively avoiding unwelcome truths. Sort of. Rendering the knowable unknown to yourself, if that makes sense.
Wow, that link between deceiving yourself and avoiding truth.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-bending. Is it like our brains are built to be better liars by first lying to ourselves? That's a really interesting way to put it. And yeah, the study leans that way. While we often think of these as flaws, they're not always negative.
Oh, how so?
Well, often they're adaptive. They let us make decisions faster when speed matters more than being perfectly right.
Okay, survival instincts kicking in.
Pretty much. And self-deception itself, it can genuinely lessen the cognitive load, the mental effort, and it helps maintain our self-esteem, especially when things are tough.
So it protects us, in a way.
It can. And yeah, back to your point, the study highlights this fascinating idea. Self-deception might have evolved partly to make us better at interpersonal deception, lying to others.
How does that work?
Well, if you genuinely convince yourself that your story is true, you don't give off those typical tells of conscious lying. It's less mentally taxing, and there's less risk if you're caught. It's like that old saying.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Exactly. It really shows this trade-off in our brains. Speed over absolute accuracy. Like assuming a shadow is a threat. Better safe than, evolutionarily speaking.
So our brains are essentially wired to fib to us for survival. But there must be downsides too, right? Like, overconfidence can't always be good.
Absolutely. It's a double-edged sword. Disaster can definitely follow overconfidence. But the fact that deception is, well, everywhere in human societies and shows up really early in kids, it suggests it's deeply ingrained, almost innate.
More than just learned behavior.
Right. And natural selection might have actually favored some self-deception, like overconfidence, because it can give social advantages, maybe even benefits to the group.
How could overconfidence benefit a group?
Well, think about it. Maybe overconfident individuals are more likely to try risky new things. Sometimes that fails spectacularly, sure, but sometimes it could lead to breakthroughs that benefit everyone.
Huh. Never thought of it that way. Okay, this is fascinating. Can we dig into some specific examples? What are the common biases the study mentions, the ones we bump into daily?
Yeah, let's hit a few key ones that really shape things. First up, confirmation bias. Big one. This is our tendency to, hunt for information that confirms what we already think is true. And at the same time, we conveniently ignore stuff that contradicts it.
Guilty as charged, like only reading news that fits my views.
Exactly. Or maybe avoiding that parent-teacher conference because deep down you suspect the news isn't good. That's confirmation bias too.
Ouch. Okay, what else?
Then there's self-serving bias. This is where we take credit for successes but blame failures on external factors.
I aced the test because I'm smart, but I failed because the teacher hates me.
Precisely. Someone cheats on a test and gets an A. They might genuinely feel it reflects their skill, not the cheating. It protects the ego.
Makes sense. Keep them coming.
Okay, optimism bias. We tend to overestimate the good stuff happening and underestimate the risks.
Like thinking my startup is definitely going to be the next big thing.
That's a classic example. Or leaders planning a strategy and
Yep.
sort of brushing off the potential downsides.
Right. And you mentioned one more.
Loss aversion. This one's powerful. Basically, the pain of losing something feels way stronger than the pleasure of gaining something of equal value.
Oh, yeah, I feel that.
You see it hugely in finance. People panic sell when markets dip, even if holding on might be smarter long term. That fear of loss just takes over.
Man, those are incredibly relatable. Okay, so given we humans are riddled with these tendencies,
Yeah.
how does AI fit in? Is it this perfectly rational counterpoint, or does it catch our bugs too?
Well, it's definitely not perfectly rational. In many ways, AI is more like a mirror reflecting us, bugs and all.
A mirror? How so?
Think about how these big AI models like ChatGPT are trained. They learn from vast amounts of text and data generated by humans.
So if the data has our biases.
Exactly. The AI ingests and reflects those biases. It's not some neutral judge. It's echoing the conversations, the assumptions, the prejudices embedded in our society. You can't really tell what's morally right or factually true on its own.
So it learns our biases. But wait, you mentioned it can develop its own biases. How does that happen? That sounds worrying.
It is a significant concern, yeah. And it happens in a few ways. One is data selection bias. If the data used to train the AI doesn't fairly represent everyone.
Like an AI recruiter favoring men because the historical hiring data showed more men.
Exactly that. Or representation bias, where maybe certain groups are underrepresented in the data itself. Think medical AI less accurate for darker skin tones because the image database was mostly lighter skin.
Okay, biases in the data. What else?
There's algorithmic bias, which can creep in through the actual machine learning techniques or design choices the engineers make. And AI can even show its own kind of confirmation bias, favoring info that aligns with biases already in its training data.
So a chatbot might just tell me what I want to hear, essentially.
It could, yeah. Reinforce your existing views instead of offering different perspectives. And even how we interact with AI can introduce human interaction bias.
Wow. And the study mentioned AI showing overconfidence, too. Like us.
It did. ChatGPT, for instance, has shown overconfidence bias, sometimes stating wrong information very confidently. And sometimes the opposite, risk aversion bias, playing it too safe even when a riskier option might yield better results.
So AI is definitely not neutral. It's learning from us, warts and all. But you also said the study sees AI as a tool for understanding us better. This is where it gets really meta, isn't it?
This is where the potential gets really exciting, yes. There's this field, computational psychology.
Okay.
It uses algorithms, mathematical models, to simulate and analyze our mental processes. And this directly feeds into AI research trying to recreate human-like thought. AI becomes a kind of virtual laboratory.
A virtual lab for the human mind.
Sort of.
Yeah.
There's this AI model called Centaur, mentioned in the study. It can predict human choices in psych experiments really accurately, even mirroring brain scans, fMRI readings from real people.
That's incredible. So AI can study us at massive scale.
In a sense, yes. And newer AI models are even trying to integrate both rational and irrational thinking, recognizing that our sometimes nonlinear, messy human thought process can actually be productive, lead to new ideas.
So it's modeling our rationality, too.
They're trying, even using mathematical models to explore self-deception itself, simulating scenarios where, believe it or not, self-deceiving AI agents might actually outperform purely rational ones in certain situations.
Whoa. Okay, if AI can mimic our thoughts that closely, including the messy bits, how does that change how we think about truth? Or knowledge? Are we just outsourcing our thinking?
That's a huge question and a major concern the study calls epistemological drift.
Epistemological drift. Sounds serious.
It is. It's this risky shift away from valuing objective truth towards prioritizing fluency as credibility. Basically, if an AI sounds smooth and convincing, we might believe it even if it's wrong.
Coherence over truth.
Exactly. AI's output can create what the study calls paragnowledge.
Paragnowledge.
Yeah, information that sounds great, really fluent, but it's hollow. It lacks real understanding, lived experience. The risk is we start valuing the appearance of knowledge over the actual, sometimes difficult human process of figuring things out.
Okay, that's worrying. So how do we counter that? Can AI help fix its own problem?
Researchers are working on it. They're trying to build epistemic resilience into AI.
Epistemic resilience. What's that mean for an AI?
It means teaching the AI to basically self-question, to generate alternative ideas, recognize biases in its own data.
How do they teach it that?
Using techniques like reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, where humans guide the AI's learning, and red teaming, where people actively try to trick the AI or make it fail to find weaknesses.
Like stress testing it for truthfulness.
Kinda, yeah. They even use AI versus AI debates sometimes to try and get closer to the truth, teaching the AI a kind of skeptical inquiry. Treating truth as something you arrive at through doubt and refinement.
Okay, so we've got the biases, how AI mirrors them, how it might even learn to be more truthful. Let's bring this down to earth. What's the real-world impact? Where do these quirks play out in our lives, our societies?
Oh, the impact is just everywhere. On the personal level, in our relationships, self-deception can really damage trust. It leads to unrealistic expectations, bad decisions because you're working off bad info about yourself or others.
Makes it hard to see things clearly.
Exactly. It can reduce empathy, too. If you can't acknowledge your own flaws, it's hard to see them or forgive them in others. And then there's manipulation.
How does that tie in?
Psychological manipulation often preys directly on these cognitive vulnerabilities, things like gaslighting.
Making someone doubt their own reality.
Right, or even using humor to deliver insults. These tactics work because they exploit our biases, and often the manipulator might be deceiving themselves too, which makes them more convincing. Micro-level self-deception enabling macro-level harm.
That is chilling when you think about it scaling up. How does this manifest in, say, politics?
Well, moving up to societal structures. In politics, you see leaders' own biases, confirmation bias, overconfidence, favoring their in-group driving decisions that affect millions.
Making bad calls based on flawed thinking.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And propaganda techniques directly exploit our biases. Things like labeling opponents with simple, negative tags or poisoning the well, discrediting someone before they even speak.
Playing on our mental shortcuts.
Precisely. History's full of examples. The study mentions deception used by governments in wartime, like during the Vietnam War, presenting narratives that didn't quite match reality. There's this dangerous loop. A leader's self-deception can make them better at deceiving others, which can lead to groupthink.
Where everyone agrees and dissenting voices get shut down.
Exactly. Warnings get ignored. Critical thinking goes out the window.
Okay. And finance, you mentioned that earlier. We've definitely seen irrationality there.
Oh, absolutely. Finance is a hotbed for cognitive biases driving big events. Overconfidence, herd mentality, loss aversion, they fuel market bubbles and crashes.
Like the tulip mania.
Classic example, 1637 Dutch tulip mania. People got swept up in collective optimism, herd behavior, prices for bulbs went insane. Then panic, loss aversion kicked in, and crash, wiped people out.
History repeating itself.
Seems like it. The 2008 crisis had similar roots. Optimism bias, herd mentality around subprime mortgages, this belief that house prices never go down.
Until they did.
Right. It really underscores why behavioral economics, which factors in our psychology, is so vital now for understanding markets.
It really feels like no area is safe from this. What about public health? That seems like somewhere we'd want pure rationality.
You'd hope so, but biases creep in there too. During the pandemic, you saw policy decisions sometimes hampered by optimism bias, maybe downplaying the initial threat or confirmation bias, sticking to one course of action.
And things like vaccine hesitancy.
That's a complex issue, but biases play a role. Things like omission bias, preferring inaction over action, even if action is safer, or availability bias, where vivid stories of rare side effects stick in the mind more than statistics.
And AI in health isn't immune either.
No. We talked about biased algorithms. In healthcare, That could mean a risk prediction tool, underestimating the needs of certain patient groups, because the historical data it learned from reflected existing inequalities in care access or spending.
That's a serious bias with real consequences. What about the legal system? Isn't that supposed to be objective?
Strives to be, yes, but it's still run by humans. Subjectivity sneaks in through biases. Confirmation bias, again, an investigator might unconsciously look for evidence confirming their initial suspect.
No, right.
And even subtle things. The study mentions the rhyme is reason effect. Catchy phrases like, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit, can sound more truthful just because they rhyme, potentially swaying a jury.
Seriously, just because it rhymes.
It sounds trivial, but psychologically, fluency can be persuasive. Or anchoring, where the first piece of information, like hearing about a prior conviction, unduly influences later judgments. It highlights the challenge of achieving pure objectivity.
Wow. Okay, this is a lot. It feels a bit overwhelming, honestly. These biases are just everywhere. But you said the study offers hope, too. How can AI help us push back against all this?
It's definitely a challenge, but yes, there's hope, focusing on mitigation, and it's a dual approach, debiasing both humans and AI.
Okay, how do we debias humans?
Well, there's cognitive training, learning to recognize our own biases, also learning how to respectfully challenge others, presenting facts non-confrontationally. There's even therapy, cognitive bias modification therapy, CBMT, used for things like anxiety or addiction.
So tools for our own minds. And for AI, you said it can amplify biases.
Right, so debiasing AI is crucial. This involves things like carefully designing algorithms to reduce bias, systematically testing the AI, ensuring diverse data collection, constantly monitoring its performance, and building in transparency.
Transparency, like explainable AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Understanding why the AI made a decision helps us spot and correct bias. But there's often a trade-off.
What kind of trade-off?
Sometimes making an AI perfectly fair, according to one metric, might slightly reduce its overall accuracy on the task. It's called the bias accuracy trade-off, and it requires really careful balancing and deciding what fairness means in context.
That sounds complex. So beyond just fixing AI's flaws, how can it actively help us develop in positive ways?
This is where AI's potential gets really exciting. Think about education. AI can automate routine stuff for teachers.
Freeing them up for more important things.
Exactly. More time for critical thinking discussions, mentoring. AI can also be a kind of thinking partner for students.
How? Like a super tutor.
Sort of. Helping with fact-checking, asking Socratic questions to make them think deeper, acting as a debate opponent, even generating case studies for analysis, and personalized learning platforms.
Adapting to each student's pace.
Right. Adapting content, providing instant feedback, makes learning more tailored, potentially more effective.
Okay, education. What about mental health?
Huge potential there, too. AI-powered digital tools can offer 24/7 support. Personalized therapy modules based on proven techniques like CBT or DBT, chatbots for non-judgmental conversations.
Like having someone to talk to anytime.
Yeah, offering support, cognitive restructuring tools. But, and this is important.
The but. I was waiting for it.
Yeah. There are valid concerns about authenticity. Is there a risk of unhealthy attachment? Could it replace needed human connection?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It really is. Which is why ethical guidelines, human oversight, making sure AI augments rather than replaces human care, it's all absolutely crucial.
Augmentation, not replacement. Got it. Can AI help us be nicer to each other, foster empathy?
Surprisingly, maybe, there's this idea of synthetic intergroup contact.
Synthetic?
What now? Okay, so imagine interacting with an AI that defies stereotypes. Like a virtual assistant designed as male but exhibiting traits often seen as traditionally female. Studies suggest this kind of counter-stereotypical interaction can actually help reduce prejudice.
Oh, challenging biases through AI interaction.
Potentially. AI could also learn to process emotional cues better, maybe help us develop more empathic responses. And there are tools being developed, like one called CogSolve, for conflict resolution.
AI as a mediator?
Kind of. Helping understand different viewpoints, simulating reactions, trying to get around our biases to find those win-win solutions.
Okay, so AI as a tool for a more empathetic, maybe less biased society. How does this all fit into the bigger picture? Ethical governance, building a resilient society.
Well, thinking about kids, for example, the study suggests the best path is AI augmenting human development, not replacing it, balancing screen time and AI learning with good old-fashioned play, art, social interaction, developing the whole person.
Makes sense. And what about those who are, say, pathologically manipulative? Can AI help there?
The study suggests shifting our approach away from just condemnation towards something more societal, maybe therapeutic, recognizing the psychological issues often underlying that behavior. Focusing on professional help, boundaries for victims, stronger support systems. AI might help identify patterns, but the solutions are very human.
Right. And AI's role in shaping our actual societal norms.
That's a big one. AI can analyze huge data sets to reveal hidden biases in our laws, our traditions, even religious interpretations. It forces us to look in the mirror.
But could we become lazy? Let AI make our moral choices.
That's the risk of moral de-skilling, yeah.
Yeah.
If we delegate too much ethical reasoning to machines, it stresses why principles like transparency, accountability, fairness in AI are non-negotiable.
So it all comes back to that feedback loop you mentioned.
Exactly. Our biased human minds shape the AI. The AI's output, potentially biased too, influences us and society. But crucially, AI also offers tools for mitigation, for positive change, better critical thinking, fairer policies, personalized learning. It's this constant evolving dance.
A dance between human flaws and AI potential.
That sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
If we connect all these threads, what we're seeing is this deep duality, right? Self-deception, bias, they're baked into us. Sometimes helpful, adaptive even.
But also risky, causing problems everywhere.
Exactly. Perpetuating flaws in relationships, finance, politics, everything.
And AI is sitting right at this crossroads. It holds up that mirror showing our imperfections.
But it's also this incredibly powerful tool for self-discovery, maybe even for fixing some of those societal flaws.
If we develop it responsibly, that seems key. Ethical governance, human-AI teamwork, understanding this whole intricate dance.
Absolutely. Which really brings up a big question for you listening right now. If AI can model and help us understand these deep biases we have, how might that change how we tackle the big human challenges?
Yeah, things like political divides, or even just navigating our own personal relationships better.
Exactly. How does knowing this change your approach?
It's huge, isn't it? This isn't just tech talk. It's forcing us to rethink what it means to be human in a world that's getting, well, smarter in artificial ways. What really stood out to you today? Maybe think about how knowing these biases exist might change a decision you make tomorrow.
It's definitely food for thought.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep thriving.
This is DigitView.